Welcome everybody to the return of the FPL Crypto 6 Picks contest with a difference this time because you'll notice over to the right of the screen we have a new face going by the name of Gabriel, hailing from sunny California, a soccer coach who goes under the Twitter handle FPL Lens, and you'll all soon learn why. We both play FPL but see things a little differently, so I'm delighted to have Gabriel run the 6 picks with me up until the end of the season. Gabriel, I am so happy to have you on board. Are you looking forward to this?
I've been looking forward to this for quite some time, ever since you brought it up, Cathal. So thank you. Thanks for the invite. It means a lot to be here. I'm super excited. Woke up this morning with notes and thoughts in my head, and I'm ready to get this rolling.
Oh, let's bring it on. For those of you new to this contest, here is a quick rundown on how we do it. We choose one FPL player in each of 6 categories for the game week 9 in this case, and the categories are premium pick, differential pick, budget defense, budget offense, gut feeling, and captaincy. Hang on until the very end of this video because viewers, there are 2 ways now to participate this season and win some Bitcoin. The first is by entering the contest and choosing your own 6 picks, and that can be done by subscribing to the channel and clicking the entry form link in the description. It's a Google form. We are both very excited also to reveal that we have partnered with Fantasy Football Scout and their Fantasy Football International team to bring you the best in FPL stats, tools, and FPL information in this video, courtesy of their membership tools. So very, very excited to have that feature on board to emphasize and help on the stats side of things. Well, I think we should just get stuck in. Let's just go straight into premium pick. So what I'll do is I'll go through each category individually. I'll give you the criteria for the pick, and then we will both reveal our own players. So the category number 1 is premium pick. In this category, you can choose a goalkeeper or a defender costing 5.5 million or more, or you can go for a midfielder or forward costing 8 million or more. And it's only 1 player pick per club team. Let's reveal. Right, Timo Werner for me, and you've gone for Jamie Vardy. I'll let you launch in and tell us, Gabriel, why is Jamie Vardy your premium pick for Game Week 9?
Okay, as we launch in here, I do want to remind people that this is a test for us. Your guinea pigs a little bit right now, and we are using a new system, and I'm kind of a new element to this game as well. So if there are any technical issues, I hope you will let us know. We will work hard to improve this each and every game week for you all. But let's jump into Jamie Vardy. Jamie Vardy was, I've said he was an interesting pick, and now he's kind of an obvious pick. Not so interesting anymore when every single one of the Liverpool back four has been ruled with an injury. Now, whether we believe it's unbelievable. This is the international breaks. What these players are being put through right now, pandemic and just the strain to their body is kind of crazy. But we'll see about Andy Robertson. We'll see how his injury what it turns out to be, how serious that is. But we will for sure have 3 new defenders back there in that back line. Now, we see here in the graphic there kind of where Jamie Vardy receives most of his passes in game weeks 1 through 8. Now that the back line is completely decimated, what I did is I took that and I did a little bit more research on fantasyfootballscout.co.uk with the great tools they have in there, and I broke it up between the game weeks 1 through 4 and game weeks 5 through 8. And what I noticed is that the heat map for passes received, what happens to Jamie Vardy's is game weeks 1 through 4 very concentrated around the top of the box. Definitely in the middle of the field, and even there's a heavy that like kind of a heavy red there closer to the midfield, kind of in Kane territory there. Game weeks 5 through 8 is a little bit different, so you still see some of the action there in midfield, but what happens to the heat marks there in game weeks 5 through 8 is they get spread across the whole field. What I like about that is that Jamie Vardy's kind of learning to attack every different part or every different side of that defensive line, and with 3 new players back there, a defensive line that's never played together, I really like him to find some good pockets of space. Now, heading to the stats, these are the stats for Jamie Vardy over the last 4 game weeks. Second, he has the second most big chances with 6 over the last 4. The second most shots on target with 7. The second highest XG, 3.28, and the second most goals with 3. So he's second in all of those categories to the master Patrick Bamford. Yes, he's number 1 in all of those categories. I believe he shares one of them, the shots on target, with Mohamed Salah, which we will talk about later. But these are all the reasons why I love Jamie Vardy this week.
Well, all I can say is I'm feeling a little bit sick to the stomach that I didn't go for Jamie Vardy after hearing all that because, well, as you said, I guess it is a more kind of obvious choice now, but that's in hindsight with all these injuries that are just bombarding the Liverpool defence. Like you said, Robbo is a doubt, but it's not certain. But you've got Gomez, Virgil van Dijk long term, Trent Alexander-Arnold for at least 6 weeks. Lack of solidity there. And I'm also looking at your game week 5 to 8 passes received heat map, and I'm wondering if there's a correlation there to the return of James Maddison, and that might be key to unlocking this lack of solidity in this defence too and pulling them apart. And Jamie Vardy is certainly finding pockets everywhere in the pitch of late. So very encouraging stuff there for any Jamie Vardy owners. I've gone for Timo Werner, 9.4 million, 25% team selected by, and he's got Newcastle away next in game week 9. I think he's on the verge of another big haul, Timo. Granted, he's probably playing on the left again with Tammy Abraham central like it did last week. His game week 5 16-point haul came from playing up the centre. Now, that week he was Chelsea's most advanced player by a long shot. And Newcastle have conceded 9 chances down the middle of the pitch. That's the most in the Premier League. So I do feel like there's an exposure there. In saying that, if Werner continues to play down the left side, I've pulled up some of the ratings from the previous Newcastle game, and as you can see, they're having a bit of trouble on the right flank with Jacob Murphy kind of stepping in there as a right back. 2 errors leading to goals. Overall, defensively, he's a little bit shaky. It seems that a lot of opponents tend to target him and run at him because of the sense of weakness there. So that's something that the likes of Timo Werner or Ben Chilwell could definitely play on in the next game. Then Monquillo could be back. Someone else could slot in there as a more traditional defender. But if Jacob Murphy continues to play in that role, I can sense a lot of joy for Werner owners coming up this game week. Definite instability there in that Newcastle defence, apparent last week. Okay. Differential then. Let's fire on. So this one, under 10% team selected by. A lot of players to choose for. So you're going for the type of player that's just under the radar a little bit in terms of ownership. So, reveal, I have Richarlison, and you've gone for Sadio Mane. I'll go first on this one. Right, so you can see it's quite apparent, fixtures-wise, really looking solid, looking good for Everton in the next 3 game weeks. Fulham away game week 9, Leeds home, and then Burnley away. Richarlison returning from that red card suspension, 3 games he missed out after getting sent off against Liverpool. So definitely under the radar, 4% ownership, a true differential here. He is on penalties, which is a huge boon for anybody, and 7.8 million. So that's kind of quite interesting because Dominic Calvert-Lewin is 7.8 million too. So we can do a little bit of a direct comparison here. In terms of chance creation, he is a better pick than DCL, in my opinion. He's more involved in the last third of the pitch, and he has better assist potential. Now, I have a bit of a stats table pulled up there from Fantasy Football Scout. And this is based in it's for any forward who's played a minimum of 300 minutes, just to take into account those missed game weeks for Richarlison. And it's per 90 stats. You can see that he is top of the pile for penalty area touches, 7.33 per 90 minutes for Richarlison. And also for goal attempts, he's on 3.67 goal attempts per 90 minutes. That's 4th amongst all forwards. So really, really impressive stats posted there for Richarlison. And one to consider, if anyone's on a wild card and they're toying with the idea of an Everton asset, definitely something to consider with their fixtures. It's not a bad idea to go Richarlison over Dominic Calvert-Lewin because of that extra incentive for penalties, in my opinion. What do you think of my Richarlison pick?
Well, no, I love this pick so much. I've been a big Richarlison fan for a little while here. I wrote a thread on him in preseason on Twitter, and I went with started the season with Richarlison over Calvert-Lewin, and then I then brought in Calvert-Lewin. But I agree, Richarlison is the creative hub of that team. Despite the passes coming from James, I think just his game intelligence and awareness and his influence on the team, it really makes them tick. So that's a fine pick here that we'll talk more about, I'm sure.
Yeah, Sadio Mane. Then I mean, it's one of those picks that's becoming a little bit more interesting now with the fact that we've got Mo Salah ruled out. But let's talk about that one.
So yeah, the Sadio Mane pick. This is so for me. This is a coach's pick, and actually it was made before the Mo Salah, I think, news came out. So
That's recent news, exactly. Yeah.
Again, sometimes you luck out with the news that's coming in, but most of the time it doesn't work out in your favor. So it is best to wait for all of the news. I just lucked out with Vardy and with Mane in this case, I guess. So what I'm showing here is kind of this progression and Sadio Mane's involvement in game weeks 1 through 4 and passes received heat map, and then game weeks 5 through 8. We notice that the difference is in game weeks 5 through 8, he's tucked inside, so he's more central in the field, and he's pushed up a little higher. We see that big spot of red inside the box there. So I like his kind of like increased he's playing in areas of the field, receiving the ball in areas of the field where there's more of a chance that he'll score. The other thing that I've seen is that Liverpool is a team that tends to funnel play, and they typically funnel play to Mohamed Salah. Sadio Mane, he is a patient fellow, but last season it got to a point, it got to kind of a tipping point, and then they started feeding him more of the ball. I think they were more successful when they spread the play a little bit more. But without Mohamed Salah, they're gonna be funneling the play to their other big star, and I believe that will be Sadio Mane. And I think this kind of trend of the passes received will continue in game week 9, and probably even more so in the box in game week 9. Just some let's see, what else do I have here? Oh, well, the one last thing I have about Sadio Mane is about their opponent. So Leicester City have conceded 41% of their chances down the right side. So that's their biggest vulnerability defensively. And Sadio Mane, that could be in kind of the platter on which Sadio Mane feasts this week or next week.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, now that Salah is a definite no-no, there's going to be a central focus through Mane going forward for Liverpool in game week 9. And look, premium pick, so the first 2 picks you've got in the same game. I guess you're hoping for goals.
That's the other thing. I think just the way these teams are built right now is their strengths can capitalize on the weakness, the counterpart weakness in defense. So the attacking strength versus their defensive weaknesses kind of really line up for a goal fest in this one. So I like both those attackers. I like the over on this for those that get down to Vegas or wherever your local betting gambling is. But yes, yeah, I like a goal fest here. Should be an exciting game, and I like both those attackers.
Good tip. Right. Okay. So we'll go into budget defense next. So in this category, you can choose a goalkeeper costing less than 5.5, or you can opt for a defender costing less than 5.5. As always, 1 player pick per club team. So revealing what we've gone for. Right. Okay. We got Patrick Van Aanholt on my corner, and you've gone for Aaron Cresswell. You want to take this one?
Sure, I'll take this one. I think Aaron Cresswell, 5.1 million, a really completely transformed West Ham United defense with playing that deep back 5 has been so effective for them. I'm still a little bit upset at David Moyes when he came back against Spurs and played a high 3 instead of a deep 5, but I don't expect that to happen anymore. But really, it's all about their opponents again this weekend. And we look at the sorry, I'm make this a little bigger. We look at the average positioning for their right center back and their right defender. and it is right around midfield, just in that area, for a little bit deeper for Basham, obviously. But there's so much space in behind there, and Aaron Cresswell is the type of player that can just drop the balls into Masuaku running in, Pablo Fornals running in, or whoever's running into that space. I just like Cresswell. I think he's one of the creative hubs of this team from that back line. If you look at Cresswell's heat map, it actually matches exactly Masuaku's heat map, which is really interesting. So that's how high up he plays. What do you think?
Well, I think he's a great pick. I definitely feel like there's a trend towards West Ham defenders amongst the FPL community. A lot of names in the hat there. You've got Masuaku and Cathal, the cheaper options at 4.5 million. But when it comes to Aaron Cresswell, I think you get what you pay for the extra 0.6 million. Team selected by 8.3%, still relatively low, but he's a premium option. And if you look, because of the fact that he's posting amazing stats in terms of chance creation. Now, Aaron Cresswell entered my own FPL team last game week. I went for him solely based on the fact that he was exceeding Trent Alexander-Arnold's numbers in terms of chances created for his teammates. And you have to bear in mind that he takes corners, so he gets a lot of crosses in there. But it was the selling factor for me, and I can see them getting a lot of joy in the weeks ahead. And Sheffield United away, as you said, there's a lot of space on the left flank for West Ham bombing forward there. Exposure.
One thing I wanted to mention here is just another plug to Fantasy Football Scout is just the variety of the tools that they offer. This is average position by game week, so I like to look at defenders' average game position to see where I can find weaknesses to exploit, and then for attackers, I really like to see where they're receiving the ball. So just these are the tools available to FPL managers, and I hope you can maximize them.
Well, that's interesting because I use a lot of the tools too, and it's one that I haven't actually closely looked at, and maybe that goes down. That's a great thing in terms of striking balance between the two of us in our selections, because passes received heat map is one of those ones I kind of skip through, and I go for the more kind of damning statistics of shots on target and the average position heat map as opposed to passes received. But it's really interesting that we can kind of combine both our thoughts and processes and come up with two unique sets of picks. I'm sure there'll be crossovers, but for the most part, we're thinking independently. So Patrick Van Aanholt, 5.4 million. I reckon he's going up to 5.5 million in the next two game weeks. If you look at the fixtures, game week 9 and 10, Burnley away, Newcastle home. It's a sea of green looking forward for Crystal Palace. Team selected by 0.5%. Now that's down to the fact that he's been injured for most of this game week. This guy is a proven FPL asset, though. He scores heavily in certain game weeks, and he's done so for the last 3 seasons. He's right up there for goal attempts in the last 2 game weeks since his return. He has 4, and that's basically it's right up there. I think it's 3rd amongst defenders. He takes some free kicks, although I think he might have issues wrestling the ball off Eze after his worldie into the top corner in game week 8. But he does stand over the set pieces. He had 1 big chance in that game. He should have scored, in my opinion. So he's definitely passing the eye test. No haul from him yet, but I can certainly see him getting some joy if you look at those 3 game weeks coming up. Only a matter of time, in my opinion, for PVA. What do you think?
PVA, you gotta love PVA. You gotta love a Premier League player who plays Fantasy Premier League and engages it every once in a while. He's got a great Twitter account. He's got a great attitude, and he's one of those players where he's coming off of injury, and you can see him growing, right? And he was so involved in that last game that you mentioned that 1 big chance that he really should have scored. Maybe in better form with a few games under his belt, he would have scored, I think, maybe. So I think that's a fantastic pick, and like you said, he might be on pens. He might be back on pens. He has been in the past. It'll be between him and Zaha, I'm sure.
Yeah, an interesting dynamic here. So someone I haven't thought of yet. So we're kind of pitting each other against. We're pitting each other's wits against each other every week. So I have Aaron Cresswell on my FPL team, and now I don't even want him to do well this week. Because I feel like it will give you a distinct advantage. But look, that's besides the point. You can't really think that way. I'll try and shake that one off. Maybe we should take a moment now to give thanks to some of the community members that helped us get to this stage. Now, as you guys all know, I ran the 6 picks contest last season and the season before, and it's a lot of work for one person. And I was absolutely delighted to have Gabriel offer himself up to participate every week and join me in these videos. And there's a lot of people out there that have helped us get here too. I'm going to shout out a couple of Twitter handles. The first one is Newton DJ Newton. He helped us with a lot of the stats in the Google Sheets side of things. And you've got Nick Cannon Tweets and Ian FPL Strategic gave us sound advice too when it came to that kind of stuff. Fantasy Football Scout too. They've kind of enabled us with all these tools and stats for us to display in our videos. So a big thanks to them also. Gabriel, is there anybody you want to give a shout out to or mention?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting about these FPL side games. You know, Cathal, you and I met because of the 6 picks that you did on Twitter. I think one of our first interactions I mentioned to you was I managed to fit Kevin De Bruyne in at the time, and it was a premium pick, and then all these cheapies. So that, again, going back to just kind of a different way of looking at things, and kind of based on that, once there was no longer the 6 picks, the FPL 5-a-side came along, and I was helping out with that. And so I just want to mention the at FPL Escapades and at Nuts About FPL, who have been so gracious to take the FPL 5-a-side game. They're running with that, so then I can be here and do the 6 picks contest with you and all of our viewers here. So it takes a village really to build anything, and that's what we're doing here. And we certainly couldn't do it without all of the amazing community members that have helped us out. So get involved if you are on Twitter. Reach out to us, and yeah, we'll introduce you, and you'll be happy you did, I think.
That's a good point actually to circle back to, because we are both very alive and kicking on Twitter. Our handles are above our images there. You can join in on the FPL community on Twitter for a lot of good up-to-date information and to keep your finger on the pulse of all things FPL related. So really nice little bit of advice. If you're a YouTube viewer and you haven't ventured over to the Twitter side of things, then it's a good place to start. Right, let's crack on. We're halfway through. So the next category is budget offense. The criteria for this category, you can choose a midfielder costing less than 8 million, or you can choose a forward costing less than 8 million. One player pick per club team. Let's see what we got. Okay, Ollie Watkins and Rick Carlison. Okay, we got our first duplicate. So, okay, Ollie Watkins, 6.1 million. Team selected by 8%. He's got Brighton at home next, and fixtures are really good for Villa up until game week 16. Like, if you haven't got an asset in your own FPL squad, I'd really consider at least one in there. In terms of which one to choose, now I think Grealish probably ticks the box there at 7.5 million. And he fits into this budget offense character. I've opted into this category. I've opted for Watkins this week, but Grealish's numbers are akin to Salah in terms of goal attempts and touches in the box. He really is taking it to a different level this season. Watkins has a brace though in game week 8. He's coming off the back of that. He's got penalty duty, which is really important, and he's got a low ownership. So if you're looking to maybe squeeze a budget Villa player in, then Watkins is the player probably to go for, definitely in your forward line, depending on your formation. But for me, I'm going to punt on him for my budget offense pick for game week 9. What do you think of Ollie? Has he impressed you so far in this Villa team?
He really has impressed me. Ollie has come in and really just, I think he's come in with a lot of maturity as a striker, but also maturity in the sense that when he statistically maybe wasn't producing, he kept doing the same things. And I think Jack Grealish is, it looks, just from seeing them on the field, it looks like Grealish is a bit of a mentor to him. I think the attention that you mentioned on Grealish is opening up things for Watkins, sorry. And I think Watkins will start to even take advantage of that even more. So I think that's a great pick. It's a good fixture too. Brighton with the playing the 3 at the back. With if Lamptey goes flying up, or if their wing backs going flying up, I think there will be space for Watkins to enjoy there. So I like that pick quite a bit.
It's actually funny to note because they really have. He cemented himself in that role, and they've had problems there. Like took in some. I know Wesley got injured during last season, but then they brought in that guy Samata, who was a complete flop. He did nothing for them. They tried something with Keenan Davis for a few game weeks, and he did okay, but he just wasn't clinical enough. And I think Ollie Watkins is kind of making this team what it is now. Because as you said, Jack Grealish is just in a class of his own, but he's pulling defenses apart, and Watkins is getting the space and the distribution. So yeah, interesting to see what happens. Now we've spoke highly of Richarlison already. What are your thoughts on him?
We have, and Richarlison has been one of my favorites since preseason. I mean, look at those fixtures: Fulham, Leeds, Burnley. It's just so nice, especially for someone on wildcard like me. He's definitely in my side. You mentioned the penalty area touches, the attempts on goal. You know, he's topping in those categories. The other thing I'll say is kind of connected to those is when Richarlison takes a shot. So those attempts that he's getting are very high quality shots. Attempts. They're all around the top of the 6-yard box. So they're not crazy from outside the box or anything like that. And then just as back to the kind of talisman theory, I do see him as the talisman of this team, and I think it's shown in the he's been with Everton for 81 games. And Everton has never won without him. So whenever he's been injured or suspended, Everton has always lost or drawn. So they are highly dependent on Richarlison.
I didn't realize what an integral cog he is to them, like going forward. The fact that that's an incredible stat, really. When you think about it.
It's incredible, and it makes you wonder how did Everton survive before Richarlison. Not really sure, but since he's been there, he's kind of transformed that club. So yeah, I like him to come back. He's also he reached after the red card. He reached out publicly and apologized for that red card. I think he was a little bit ashamed, and he knows he let his team down. And Richarlison is a player that takes things very much on himself. I've heard I think it's Amy Lawrence from maybe The Guardian at the time that was talking about him, or somebody was talking about him, and he really puts things on his shoulders. So I think he's going to come back in a redemption game and just light Fulham up. So I really like him this week. 4% owned. He's an incredible differential as you put him in the differential section for you. And you know, we're doing budget offense, so I just squeaked them in here right underneath the 8 million one. I squeaked Mane in right under the 10% for the differential.
Yeah, you're playing the rules. That's what they're there for, but they're there to be a fine line, you know. That's how you get an advantage. But like look, on Richarlison, I mean, he's young and maturing, and his XG is quite high on those opportunities, as you mentioned. Like, he's not shooting just from any out position. He looks close to scoring every time he gets into those kind of advantageous positions. But it's actually a very good trait to have in an FPL player you own. The fact that they're a little bit greedy. They want to take that shot on as soon as they get an eye on goal. And like, circling back to Mo Salah, I bring him up, but he's just the FPL king in terms of those stats that he posts. Like he shoots every time he gets to sight, and Richarlison seems to be going down that avenue. So it's really encouraging for anyone who owns him, and also encouraging that he's 7.8 million still. So, and very low owned, as he's in my differential category. So it's one to jump on board if you're on a wild card, and I'm sure you're considering this week in your own personal wild card. So good choice. I feel there's a reason why we both went for him. Good minds think alike. So gut feeling is the next one. This is my favorite category. Excuse me. Gabriel, it's choosing anyone you want. There doesn't have to be any sort of logical reason behind it. It's just deep down what you feel is going to happen. It doesn't have to be anything to back it up in terms of stats or form or fixtures, whatever. So there's only that one limit for one player per club team. So my gut feeling is Aubameyang, and I can see you've gone for Timo Werner. You want to go first in this one? I mean, obviously Timo Werner, I've got a gut feeling for him too. That's why.
And I did, you know, I will admit to playing it a little bit safe with Timo Werner. I think I picked him as my gut feeling because he's somebody that there's just no way I can bring him into my own FPL side. But and he's been somewhat inconsistent. You know, he was going to be rested or benched. Who knows? You know, when Pulisic got that injury. in warm up, and then he came in and had a great game. So he's also I see his international form. He scored a brace recently. He's kind of almost a talisman for the national team. He's turning into kind of the focal point for Chelsea. And then lastly is Hakim Ziyech and his form and his delivery. So Newcastle concedes 44% of their chances down the middle, which is almost half. And Ziyech, the delivery from Ziyech coming into that far post. I think Timo Werner starts on the left-hand side, makes a beeline for that near post or even the penalty spot. That's where his chances come from, despite playing on that left side. You mentioned the frailties of Newcastle's right side already. Just a lot of nice things combining for Timo Werner to start getting some good production.
I agree. And for any of you guys still considering your picks, a tip in my eyes is to go for a Werner, a Chilwell, or a Ziyech. I mean, one of those three is nearly essential in your selections this week, especially with Newcastle on the horizon. Aubameyang, then, I have a visual here, and it's just quite simply his season history. I mean, it's been abysmal, really. He was one of those players that everybody had in coming into game week 1 with playing newly promoted Fulham. He grabbed his goal in that game, which kept hopes alive, but it's just been all downhill from there. The only shining light was his penalty against United away. But then Villa at home, you'd think great fixture for Arsenal, and Aubameyang, it's a blank. He's played nearly every single minute of the season, and he's been rested in the Europa League and primed for these Premier League games. Everyone thought coming into this season, signed a new contract, he's their main man, and this is his time to shine in the Premier League. He was downgraded. Well, he was reclassified as a midfielder as opposed to a forward in FPL, which has huge advantages in terms of points. So we all thought, this is it. This is Aubameyang's season, but it's not happened yet, Gabriel. But I do think that it's going to turn a corner for him because you just can't keep a good man down, and he is a proven FPL asset. He scores, he leads this team, and it's only a matter of time until he turns it around. I'm thinking it might happen this week, and that's down a lot to the opposition, and that's Leeds away. Leeds are reminding me of Norwich City last season in terms of being stubborn with their approach. It works some game weeks, it fails miserably in other game weeks. So maybe he'll get off the mark and break his duck in game week 9. Aubameyang, 11.7 million. Who would have thought he would have dropped 0.3 million up till game week 9 in price? But that's what's happened, and he's down in percentage ownership to 13%. I'm sure at some stage this season we'll all be gunning to get him back into our teams, but he needs to turn that corner soon. So he's my gut feeling pick.
I like Aubameyang for several reasons. One, because he's very much a player that at least many managers in the FPL community on Twitter have kind of turned their backs on, and I was one of them. I started with Aubameyang, and I had high hopes. I didn't know at the time that West Ham was actually going to be maybe a more difficult fixture than expected. Willian had 3 assists against Fulham, so there was production there, but he only had the 1 goal. And then the other thing that I like is if Arteta seems, we think he's kind of developing the team with Partey in there to turn it to go from the 3-4-3 to a 4-3-3. And I think that could mean that could be a lot of good news for Aubameyang. So I think it's a really good pick. And then the last thing that I like about it is Mikel Arteta comes from a similar school of football as Marcelo Bielsa and Pep Guardiola, right? So this kind of possession, passing, breaking through the lines with small passes, and Arteta's going to know exactly how to take advantage of. I mean, let's face it, Leeds is a small, it's not one of the big teams. It's not the Barcelona, it's not the Man City's playing this. It's Leeds, and they are prone to some mistakes. I think Arteta's going to pounce on some really nice counterattacks, and those are going to go straight to Aubameyang. I could see him finally getting kind of back on it this week.
Yeah, can I just say it's great to have a coach's perspective on things. I mean, I think I'm going to have to start calling you Coach Gabriel because that's a great way of thinking. I mean, there's a lot of interesting matchups in FPL on the pitch, but like as you said, you've got Arteta, Bielsa, and Pep. You've got lots of school of thoughts up against each other week in, week out in the Premier League, which makes it fascinating viewing for all of us. those folk focus on the tactics side of things, and those of us just honed in on our FPL assets. So plenty to go around for everybody. Captaincy choice is the next category. Now this is the most important one because you get double points, just like in regular FPL. Double points, one player pick per club team. Who have we gone for? Right, okay, we've got Bruno Fernandes in both corners. Interesting, very interesting. Very obvious, really, now. It's that green West Brom at home fixture in game week 9. Well, I'll just read out what I've got, the notes I've made on Fernandes. He's got a 17-point haul versus Everton in game week 8. Like, a lot of people were thinking about letting him go after his back-to-back blanks in game week 6 and 7. But he just proved his worth. It's the consistency, really, that I'm going to kind of talk about more. So if you look at this tweet here from All About FPL, a crazy Bruno Fernandes stat, one to rival that Richarlison non-win stat that you pulled up earlier. Since making his Premier League debut, no player has scored more FPL points than Bruno Fernandes. 170 points in just 21 games at an average of 8 points per game. That's astounding, and the next highest is Salah, coming in at 151 points. Now, granted, a lot of them were penalties, but last game week he proved himself to be able to get some regular play points with his 2 goals and his assist. And in the last 4 game weeks, 12 chances created. That's third amongst midfielders, and 15 attempts. That's joint top with Salah on top of the FPL midfielders on offer. So he really is showing himself to be worth his 10.5 million price tag. What are your thoughts on Bruno Fernandes?
I agree. That is a crazy stat. 170 points, more than Mohamed Salah over the last 21 games. And I'm not bothered by the fact that many of them are penalties, to be honest. I don't see that really changing for United or for Bruno. So I just think it's another kind of feather in his cap. What I will say is, so I've been working on this fixture difficulty rating for it, like, basically measures opportunities. So I was told that 1 xG equals 3 big chances created. So I worked out, just kind of had the formula that worked out how many minutes per xG and 3 big chances created, because I wanted to make them kind of equal. Mm-hmm. And West Brom is among the worst with that. They concede 1 xG and 3 big chances every 80 minutes. Which usually equates to about 2 goals, maybe a little more than 2 goals every 80 minutes. Despite the way they played against Spurs in the last game, where they sat everyone deep and Tottenham had a tough time breaking them down. I don't think, obviously, Tottenham does not have a player like Bruno Fernandes, does not have that creative central midfielder that'll just disrupt that packed back line. So I really like him to do really well this week, and I think he'll be the highest captain in FPL by far. He'll most likely be my captain, bringing him in on my wild card. Obvious, but after last week's obvious captaincy picks, I'm a little hesitant. I'm a little scared, but Bruno's got to be the guy.
Yeah, and if you look at his ownership, I mean, he's 22% owned. I expect that to grow and grow now with the Salah news, and he's a direct replacement in that respect. But I still think he's a differential captain. Like, there's only 22% of managers that own this guy right now, and it could be hard. You'd have to take a lot of hits to get him into your team if he wasn't in your thoughts beforehand, if he wasn't part of your plan. But I like him, and I feel like he's, as you said, he's the obvious choice for game week 9, and that's why we both went with him.
The ownership is up to 25, by the way.
Oh my goodness! Right. Okay. Well, there you go. That's how quick things change in this world. So yeah, amazing. Well, he might not be differential for long in terms of captaincy. Then in that case, well, let's just take a look at our summary then. So we've both made our 6 picks, as you can see, lined up side by side here. We're going to add an extra facet to this. So for you guys viewing, there's another way you can participate this week, and that is by getting into the comment section of YouTube and letting us know who you think is going to win. Is it going to be Gabriel, or is it going to be Cathal, FPL Crypto or FPL Lens? and you can put it in the comments, and if you just like to put in a score beside what you think we're each going to get, then we will pick out the winning choice and score next game week in our video, and it's $10 of Bitcoin to whoever gets it. So that's a pretty good prize. There's no reason to not to pop a comment in and to participate. It's easy to do. And also then we've got our regular contest. So there's a Google form in the description. You've got until the game week deadline. It's on Saturday, depending on your time zone, and to get in your entry. And we'll know exactly, it's time-stamped, so we'll know exactly when your entry comes in. And I'll also say, in a tie-break situation, we will award the Bitcoin to the person who enters first. So there's a little bit of an incentive to get those picks in early. We have no choice. I mean, it's an international break right now. We've got our picks locked in. There's a lot of injury news and concerns that need to be addressed with the press conferences coming up at the end of this week, with players returning to their parent clubs after international duty. So a lot of things up in the air right now. So it might be a good idea just to kind of park the picks for a couple of days and be more kind of considered when you choose your own. So I'm looking at our picks. We're quite evenly matched. We have our crossovers with Richarlison and Timo Werner. I love your Vardy premium pick. I'm a little bit devastated I didn't think in that way. And then it comes to look at the budget defense. That can go either way too. That's a coin flip. PVA versus Cresswell. What are your thoughts on your pick? Are you happy with them? Is there anything you would change?
I'm happy with the pick. I feel like I cheated a little bit in the gut feeling pick because it is a little more obvious and kind of don't need gut feeling for Timo Werner.
Don't feel sorry for yourself. Like, that's fine. I actually don't mind the Timo Werner. I mean, look at the fact that Timo Werner is 9.4 million, and that's expensive. That's a lot of money to spend. So in a way, he's not like the first name that comes to mind. I'm 11.7 million. Like, I'm splashing out on my gut feeling.
Yeah.
It's not as if I'm picking a 5.5 million under the radar midfielder with 1% ownership. I'm going for a premium player. So I wouldn't feel too bad. Now, there is one thing I noticed with my picks. 1, 2, 3. So PVA, it's questionable, but I think all of my players might be on penalties, and that is something that might help me. That is something that might swing it this week. You've got Richarlison returning on penalties. Timo Werner has it now, and over Jorginho. Ollie Watkins, for sure, because he grabbed that ball off Grealish. And then you've got Bruno Fernandes, Mr. Fernandes himself, Aubameyang, who scored a penalty against United in game week 7. And then PVA, who seems to be next in line for Crystal Palace, with Milivojevic out now for a little while with an injury after his suspension, and also the fact that Zaha didn't take one when he was on the pitch last time the penalty was awarded and PVA took it. So I like that. I think that's something that I didn't plan it, but now it seems to be something that might roll things towards me. But it's up to you guys. Choose whoever you think is going to win in the comments.
That could be a little edge though for you, that penalty. Whereas my little edge could be Vardy or Sadio Mane, and you got the penalty edge. So
well, the thing is, Vardy usually gets 2 or 3 penalties a game as opposed to just a singular. So I can make up for all of them.
The one penalty taker you're missing, I guess.
Yeah, the one I missed out on, unfortunately. Okay, well, that was fun. I enjoyed this. Well, and we're going to make it a regular thing. We should also probably note that if you think that there's anything that could be done to improve these videos in terms of quality, now this is our first time doing it, so it's going to be a little rough around the edges for a while, but we'll smooth things out and get it in a great place for you guys so you can enjoy it as much as possible. We really appreciate you all entering and taking part.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate that, if you have any questions or you just want to talk about certain players, you want to get deeper inside our thinking or anything like that, please always reach out to us on Twitter at FPL Crypto and at FPL Lens. We are like Cathal said here, we're very active on Twitter, and we just love the engagement, and it really is a great community, and we'd love to see you all out there.
It's one big happy family. We'll see you all next week. Good luck for game week 9, and we look forward to seeing all those pick entries come in.
Good luck, everyone.
Check you all soon.
Bye.